What is up, my people? It is Monday night, 9 o'clock, which means a loaded up NBR episode for you guys. What is NBR? It's nothing but rants. Obviously, these are passionate topics that I've found, not hot takes, but takes that I'm hot about, if you will. Not a whole lot of anger in tonight's show. Last week, man, I was off the rails. I went back and watched it. I was like, woo, I want to tone it down just a little bit. And then before tonight's show, I was like, screw it. 2 cups of Death Wish coffee, doubled down, got a whole lot of juice for you guys tonight. We actually are live on Twitter. So for you guys that don't normally catch me on YouTube or always catch me on YouTube, we're also over there on Twitter as well. So if you're on Twitter, join us over on YouTube. That is our home. That's where we're at. While you're here, those folks that are over on the YouTube channel, hit that thumbs up button, share it wherever you'd like. You know, the more the merrier here. We are talking a little bit of Alabama tonight, so I would expect the typical trolls that we have rolling around in our group chat or in our YouTube chat to be here tonight and to be active, because for once we are talking about those guys for just a little bit. Tonight's showdown, of course, we are going to talk about how Alabama is making room for all of these guys. Hear a lot of talk about it, so I'm going to give you my take on that as well. Importance of playing multiple sports. We had a discussion today in the Discord. Figured we would bring it to the table today on this here YouTube channel, just in terms of what it means to play multiple sports as both, a recruiting analyst and what college coaches are looking for. We'll hear from some of the best, minds in college football today, not just actually hear from them, but I'll read you some quotes on what those guys think about that. And we'll talk about how, maybe UGA might be shooting their shot in terms of recruiting in this 2022 class just a little bit early in terms of what they're going to do this summer. It is a loaded up summer, a summer that we have not seen before in terms of the recruiting trail, and Georgia is going all out, absolutely 1,000% all out this summer. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, we will wrap up as we normally do nowadays on NBR because you guys seem to like it so much. We'll be bringing Q&A for you guys as well. Live Q&A at the end. Please hold those questions for the end, or at least throw a question mark in your question earlier in the chat so I can scroll back up and get it. As always, super chatters take precedence at any point tonight. If you drop a super chat, we will read it. We will answer those questions no matter what. If I'm in the middle of a hot take or a hot rant, we will stop and we will get to it. I do have to ask you, subscribe to the Patreon, man. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Most of those guys over there on that Patreon that are in that Discord, guys and gals, they dictate what we do. I get a lot of questions over there about, hey, can you do this breakdown? Can you do that? I will tell you that Wednesday's breakdown per request of a Patreon member through the messages will be on Darnell Washington. So if you want to pick that up, check it out. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. That will be Patreon only come this Wednesday, as most of our content actually is. So we appreciate you guys for being here tonight. Without further ado, let's get into some takes. Everybody keeps coming and talking about Alabama. Alabama keeps making room. How do they keep doing it? Saban must be cheating. And it's honestly the number one thing that any rival fan base, is all up in arms about right now. If you turned on Paul Feinbaum's show today, which unfortunately I did not, I guarantee you right now, Alice from Anniston, Alabama, is about to blow a gasket. I mean, she's about to lose her daggone mind on the radio. And I get it. The big, bad, mean man out in Tuscaloosa is getting away with it. Whatever it is, everyone thinks he's getting away with it. In broad daylight, this man's out here getting away with it, whatever it is. But I'm going to walk through some of these things tonight and maybe explain them just a little bit clearer. NCAA bylaws and regulations are very, very hazy, even for someone who might be, consider themselves a savant in said, regulations and had to have signed my life away to the NCAA a year after year back in the day. I'm fairly, at touch with what's going on, what the rules are. They are hazy, though, and we'll explain those tonight. So let's just talk about it. In this 2021 class, Alabama signed 27 guys, okay? Most of those early enrollees, which we'll get to in a little bit. It also messes up with the numbers, when they're counted, when they're not, how many rooms are there, how many available scholarships are there. And now the 2 transfers, right? Henry To'oTo'o and Jamison Williams, which that's the one. The Henry To'oTo'o commitment, what was it, today or yesterday, was the one that sent everybody up in arms. It was like, yeah, we get it, Jamison Williams, that's fine. But you take what I consider to be the best linebacker in the SEC and Henry To'oTo'o, sorry, N'Kobe, take the best linebacker in the SEC and throw him on an Alabama roster. Of course, people are going to be up in arms, especially Tennessee fans. But let's just take a look at it, guys, because it's not as foreign as you may think. a lot of people have their head in the sand and they want to focus on what they know, which is the SEC. And I get that. That's where everyone's primary focus is. But this is not uncommon what Alabama is doing. In fact, they're not even the worst perpetrators of this over-recruiting pandemic or epidemic that everyone claims that they have or claims that they go out and do, and this cheating that they do. So let's just take a look at it. And I got some numbers for you. Tonight's a little stat heavy on the numbers, so please bear with me. I'll try to read these with a bit of entertainment and inflection in my voice. So Bama signed 27 guys in 2021. 27's a lot, right? Sounds like a lot. Well, Notre Dame signed 27. Didn't hear a whole lot of people complaining. Boston College signed 26. Virginia Tech signed 27. San Diego State signed 26, which is over that quote-unquote threshold of 25 signees per class, whatever. That made-up number that everyone has in their mind, it is made up. But that's in a year in 2020 and 2021's recruiting class that was heavily impacted by, COVID recruiting and whatnot. But it was more so impacted by the NCAA saying, seniors, y'all get a free one. Y'all get a free one. So what you saw teams do, like we've addressed a while ago, you saw teams sign smaller classes than they ever have before, right? Very, very small classes. Georgia signed 20, but that was mostly due to what they did in the transfer portal last season, which counts towards this 2021 signing class. So let's take Georgia out of the picture. You had schools that were signing 17, 18, 19 guys, 20 guys. Ohio State, I think, signed 21. Clemson signed 20, 21 guys. Most of that had to do with the fact that they were holding spaces for seniors coming back. So the 2021 cycle was very, very wild. And Gucci's ahead of us because we're about to get to it right now. Let's look at a normal cycle. What does a normal cycle look like? Well, I went and crunched some numbers today. In the 2021 cycle, our last normal cycle, and for what appears to be the last normal cycle that we're going to have for quite a while, because this backlog that the NCAA has created by giving these additional years of eligibility, it's going to get hectic even moving forward. So depending on whether or not they clarify what's actually going on there, we'll have to see. But let's go back to the last normal recruiting cycle, which was just a year ago, right? In that 2020 recruiting cycle, 11 programs signed at least 27 guys. Washington State, Kansas, UNLV, Liberty, they signed 28 guys. East Carolina signed 29, UTEP 30, BYU 31. Bowling Green and Northern Illinois signed 32 guys. Everybody wasn't up in arms about that one. Why? Because it wasn't Bama, right? It was just another school that nobody really cares about in terms of their recruiting, or in this case, a group of schools that nobody really cares about in terms of their recruiting and over-signing. So I get this, Bama must be cheating. What's happening over there? What's happening, again, is your head is in the sand. And not in the sand that you're hiding from topics. It's just in the sand that is SEC, right? Your head is buried into right here, right now. You've got horse blinders on, okay? You don't see what's going on over here, and probably you really don't care. But the reality is Bama's not doing anything that nobody else is doing. And honestly, it's really, really simple math. If you just break it down, okay? If you just observe what's happening to their roster on a day or year in and year out basis. So everybody talks about, Georgia had a bunch of guys hit the portal, everybody else. What do you think Alabama's doing? Alabama's had 8 guys this year alone enter the portal. Okay, not all, walk-ons or whatever, just the scholarship dudes, just the dudes that had major recruiting coming out of high school, right? Just the 4 and 5 stars that didn't crack the roster. 8 of those guys hit the portal. Another 10 guys were drafted in this year's NFL draft. 13 seniors from a year ago. That includes Dylan Moses that went undrafted, right? So simple math. 8 plus 10 plus 13. I do have a college degree, but I'm smart enough to know that that's 31 players. Okay, 31. They signed 27 in the 2021 recruiting class, and they had 2 guys transfer in. Guys, the numbers add up. They're right there in front of you. So it's not that, Bama must have 90 scholarships to give out. No, the reality of the fact is, the numbers are there. They make sense. Okay. And the reality is Bama is going about roster management in a much more professional and cutthroat approach, right? If you don't play, we're going to process you. That's the term I always hear. We're going to process you by sending you out, right? Not necessarily giving you papers, but just saying, hey, son, look, it might be best for you and us that we just call it quits, man. We tried it. We gave this relationship a run, and it's time to go. right? That probably happens at a program like Alabama far more than any other program, where it's just like, okay, you've been here 2 years, you still haven't even cracked the 2 deep. I don't care how great you were as a high school recruit. It's probably good for you to go because Jamison Williams and Henry To'oTo'o, we need room for those guys. So when Saban comes out and says, we will add good players when we have the room to add good players, he's not just going to sit on his hands and make sure there's not room to make his roster better. He's going to take the cutthroat approach and make it happen. And you can sit there and say, oh, well, that's bad. He's got to honor his commitment. That's fine. That's not the world we live in anymore, ladies and gentlemen. That is not. It is complete free agency in terms of player movement and player mobility. So on the other hand, the catch-22 is you can't be mad at major powerhouse programs for saying, go on, hit that portal. We got better players to go get. Somebody else just hopped in, so we got to make room. Okay, so the numbers add up. Everything adds up. It's all good. There's no cheating going on in that term, okay? In that facet of scholarship availability, there is no cheating going on because it's being done in broad daylight. The numbers are right there for everybody to pay attention to. Now, where it gets funky is the gray shirt, blue shirt, purple shirt, red shirt, right? For like gray fish, blue fish, green fish, two fish. Okay, that's what's going on with all those gray shirts, blue shirts. I'll be honest, I don't even care to even pay attention to that crap. Okay, I really don't, because the roster mobility and the ability to pull and give scholarships and maybe not necessarily honor a gray shirt that you promised a year before, it's all wishy-washy. And until you get into that building and see what's actually going down, see how they're actually going about allocating these 85 scholarships, everything else is just conjecture, and you might as well just boil it all the way down to counting numbers. 31 out, 29 in. Matter of fact, they might even have room for 2 more, right? Just based off those simple, simplistic numbers. All right. So I feel like everyone, everyone that's ever dated a woman, right? There's always that one friend of hers that she's always watching, and she's always like, "Oh, can you believe she did this?" And they're best friends, they're besties, right? But she's always sitting there going, Can you believe she wore that? Can you believe she's doing that? Can you believe she's getting away with that? I feel like that's how both the Alabama and Georgia fan base is towards each other. Okay, every time Alabama gets a new player or a transfer or, signs Tyrion Arnold, for example, right? Pushed him over that, like way over that 25 cap, pushed him to 27. Every Georgia fan was like, oh, they must be cheating. Can you believe he did that? Can you believe he added him onto that roster? That kind of thing. Vice versa. Alabama fans, every time I write a daggum article about Alabama or what, no, the other day it wasn't even Alabama. It was just about how Kirby's, the questions about his development are just boo hockey because he's taking 3 stars and making them first-round draft picks. And next thing I know, there's 100,000, not 100,000. There's 1,000 Alabama fans in my mentions talking about moving the bar. Okay, they're both the girls that are watching the other best friend, right? They're like, oh, can you believe that? Can you really believe he did that? I can't believe he got away with it. That's what it's like. But just Georgia fans, just let it go. Florida fans, let it go. Okay, if you're out here pocket watching, and that's what you're doing, you're pocket watching the numbers that they have available. I'm telling you right now, as someone whose job is to kind of, survey what's going on, who's got room, who doesn't, it's virtually impossible. It is a losing proposition to sit there and say, maybe Georgia has 2 spots left. Maybe Georgia has 3 spots left, because in all reality is the only person that knows is Kirby Smart. The only person that knows is Nick Saban and whoever else is in that building managing their roster. That's it. So the numbers do add up. It's not some magic game that he's rolling over there. It's just he's turning the roster over really, really quickly every single year. And guess what? Winning does that. Winning and high caliber NFL draft picks do that. Okay. When you got guys leaving, you can bring more guys in. It's that simple. Even if, most of them leave through the NFL draft and you sneak like 8 of them into the portal and just like, go. Your services are no longer wanted. Leave. Always good. All right. Questions right here. Super chat. You guys know this one always gets in here. Indefinite. I believe it's our boy Dicko. Shout out to the producer here. Always making love for the show. Where do you think Major Burns ends up? My guess is LSU. I'm here with that one. If for those who don't know, Major Burns had a loss in his family, I believe in this January of 2020. He's obviously from Baton Rouge. There's a lot of signs pointing to him wanting to just go back home. Okay. And when things like that happen, you tip your cap to them. You say, okay, appreciate you, and go do what you got to do. There's going to be no fuss, no fight. I don't believe from Georgia in the sense that, hey, I don't think they're going to fight his eligibility waiver or anything like that. It's going to be, hey, I appreciate you for coming in here. Sorry it couldn't work out. A mutual parting of ways, especially considering the circumstances with Major. There was no, bad egg or bad, apple in the bunch. None of that stuff. From all indications, all the people that I've talked to, Major was a really good football player and a really good kid. There's just some things that he needs to tend to back home. So he's probably going back home. Even if it's not LSU, maybe it's not LSU, maybe it's somewhere else in that area, but I do believe it's going to be LSU. And it's always funny. We talk about player mobility and we talk about all this good stuff. But it's always funny to me how you see the kid hit the portal and then within like 30 or 40 minutes, you see some article from, maybe it's an LSU reporter that's like, oh, Major Burns in the portal. LSU just so happens to have one spot available and they need a safety. Okay, when those kind of things happen, I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? The signs are only pointing in one direction for me right now, and that is LSU. And that's just reading tea leaves, guys. That's not me asking anybody close to that situation or anybody at Georgia. I got the intel on what Georgia's thoughts were about the departure, and it's all good, man. It's all good. Let them go. Let them have it. So there we go. Now, speaking of, I guess we weren't talking about recruiting, but we were talking about numbers, right? Making numbers fit into a recruiting class. We had a discussion in the Discord today just about, I always put it up to them. Hey, what do you want to hear about on NBR tonight? You guys kind of know my feelings, know how I am, know my gauge on things. What do you want to hear? And one of the very first things from our boy, Dan Kiley, who shows up in here, I believe is DJ Kiley. DJ Kiley. I just got that, like Khaled. I don't know if he was trying to do that, but that's what I see. Anyways, Dan was like, hey, what about this multi-sport athlete stuff? It's been a big rave here. We'll hit this super chat right quick. How much does Nick Williams' departure affect the recruitment of the remaining D-line targets? So here's the good news about this one before we get into, the recruiting here. Trey Scott's done a really good job. He has. He's taken, especially with a lot of these in-state guys. Okay, so Coach Williams, Nick Williams' job was really to hone in the big fish out of state. Okay, so if Trey Scott maybe didn't want to spend so much time out west when traveling was available, maybe they sent Nick, or maybe they sent Nick to talk to these guys more often than they would Trey. So Nick was more of the young cat that could relate to the young kids and do it exceptionally well. So it hurts you on the recruiting trail in terms of immediate success. But the good news is when we're talking about top targets like keeping Tyree West, that's Trey Scott's job, and he's going to do it. Keeping Bear Alexander, that's Trey Scott's job, and he's going to try his best to do it. Going after a guy like Michael Williams, Trey Scott's been on that guy for a long time, as is Dan Lanning, as is Schumann. So all these big targets, Christian Miller, all these guys, they talk to Trey Scott more than they talk to anybody else in terms of in-state guys, the guys that are here and available for Georgia to get into contact with on a day-to-day basis. Those guys, Trey's been doing a good job of it. Travion, excuse me. Coach Scott has done a great job there. So I'm not as much worried about it as I would have been, say, 18 months ago when Georgia thought they might have had a chance at Corey Foreman. The only reason they had a chance at Corey Foreman was because of Nick Williams. So those out-of-state big fish that he dedicated most of his time to, that hurts. And it also hurts you in the sense that he didn't just go to Florida State or Clemson or whatever. He went to Texas A&M, which is going to be that middle ground, that Louisiana, Mississippi, western side of Alabama. Georgia's going to be fighting that guy in recruiting battles, which I think they're still going to win a lot more than they lose. But again, he is an excellent recruiter. So it does hurt in that sense. Now, speaking of recruiting, appreciate the super chatters. Again, you guys know you take precedence in this show. So anytime anybody hops up in there, we will hit you up and take care of it. Of course, that's how we do our donation subs as well. So if anybody here tonight maybe can't afford Patreon services, we will take care of you through the super chat line right here. So appreciate you guys on that one. Let's talk a little bit about this recruiting topic. Okay, a lot's been talked about of these multi-sport athletes, right? Guys that, maybe run track and play football, or play football and play basketball. And I went through the last two NFL drafts and crunched some numbers. Okay, these weren't my numbers. I forgot what the site was. Shout out to those guys. They did a great job tracking these numbers down. But let's talk about it. 2020's NFL draft. So not this year, but the year before. 56% of draftees, so more than half of the guys that were drafted in the NFL draft in 2020 said they ran track in the offseason in high school. 44% of NFL draftees played basketball in high school. 11% played baseball, 3% soccer, 2% wrestled. So I'm assuming there was a center or a guard that got drafted that was back in the day, tossing around big fellas in a singlet on a mat. So shout out Dylan Fairchild. Shout out Austin Blaschke. Georgia's got a bunch of them that are dogs on that recruiting map. But anyways, so you see the numbers there. Over half ran track. That's a big number for me. And it got even higher in the 2021 NFL draft class. They did the same numbers, same data points on the next year. As I get a Georgia prospect texting me right here. We'll take a look at that later. I think that's old Pierce Sperlin squatting about 365. We got to work on that depth, but that man's about 6'6". So what are you going to do for him? Anyways, 2021 numbers escalated even higher, right? You got 86% of NFL draftees this year classified themselves as multi-sport athletes in high school. 86%. That's an undeniable number in terms of how high it is. 67% of those ran track. That's 173 of 255 guys drafted in this year's class ran track. 31 of which were sub 11 seconds in the 100. So 11 seconds is that kind of benchmark for Power 5 schools. When I talk to recruiting coordinators, that's what they want to see. If you're out running track and you're a skill guy, if you're not sub 11 seconds, it's going to be hard. That'd be like running a 4.65 and playing wide receiver. It would be best if you're a 4.48, 4.51 guy in high school, right? And then if you're really elite leaving college, maybe you get to that sub 4.4 level. Okay, so that's the number. 31 guys out of 173 were sub 11 seconds in the 100. 39% played basketball, 8% played baseball. So a lot of these baseball guys, I was a baseball guy in high school. My big butt wasn't running track, but I probably should have been, honestly, because even if you throw the discus or throw the shot put, you're out there running every single day. Okay, and it's eventually going to make you faster. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you're out there training how to run and running on a day in and day out basis, you're going to get faster. Simple, right? It's cut and dry. And I mean, most importantly, when it comes to dual sport athletes, guys that are playing multiple sports or playing sports year round, it's just an opportunity to compete, right? I mean, it can be very mundane if you're just, training for football. I love all the trainers in Atlanta that I go see on a weekly basis. They're all really great at what they do. They're elite guys in terms of shaping their craft. But you can only compete so much at the bubble with Terrence Edwards. Okay, yeah, you might be able to run one-on-ones every once in a while. Same thing with Oliver Davis. They do a good job of creating a competitive atmosphere as much as they can, but it's not anything like being actually in a sport, right? So when you're out there running track and you're competing as a team, there's team-oriented aspects there, and there's individual success that you're pursuing. It's exactly what football is, right? It's the same premise, and you're learning how to compete in a different facet. Maybe a facet or an aspect of your athletic career that you're not as successful at on the football field, right? For a lot of these guys that get recruited by these Power 5, schools, they're extremely successful on the football field. Obviously, it's why they're being recruited. Maybe they're not the best basketball player in their school. Maybe they're not the fastest track runner at their program, and it'll drive them to get that much better. So you're competing year round, and most importantly for me, you avoid the aspect of getting burnt out in a sport that you're wanting to play in college that you really haven't even begun to play yet. If we're being 100% honest, high school kids that are watching this right now, you have no idea what you have signed up for going to college and playing football. Even when they tell you what it's going to be, you have no clue. It is a 50 to 60 hour a week job. Okay. It is a job. It may be a job that you love, but it is a job. Okay. And it is approached like a job. It is cut and dry and cutthroat like a job. And escalating up the ladder is just like a job. Okay. So it avoids that process of it where, I've been football for 48 months during high school, and now I got to go be football and only football for another 48 months. You burn out on that sport really, really quickly if you don't allow yourself some type of breathing room in terms of maybe playing another sport. If you're only training football year round, you're going to get burnt out on the sport. As much as we all love it, if I set you down and made you watch football every single day, yeah, for the first 3 months, everybody's like, oh man, I love this. I get to sit around and watch football all day. And then about month 6, you're like, oh man, I get to sit around and watch football today. And then about week 9 or month 9, you're like, oh man, I got to sit around and watch football today. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's the same process that's going to eventually happen for these kids if you're not careful. And honestly, some of the greatest minds in terms of football right now that we have, they've been on the record about this. I got a quote from Saban right here. I kind of hate it when guys specialize in one thing, especially early on, and just do that year round. It's exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about that burnout aspect of things. Kirby Smart has a history of allowing guys to run track when they get to Georgia. Miko Hardman being one of those, even before Kirby's time. Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall, they were track runners. They ran the 60 indoor when they were at Georgia. So there is a history of Georgia players doing it. And of course, Dabo Swinney, in the most Dabo Swinney way, said, I want the multi-sport guy. Right? That's probably how I said it too. Anyways, I want the multi-sport guy. And that's all good. But if we're being completely honest right here, right now, ain't none of these coaches exactly bullish on the idea of players coming to their program and still remaining playing both sports. I mean, let's be honest. Do you think JaQuincy McKinstry actually dresses up in hoops for Alabama? Do you think Terrion Arnold actually dresses out in hoops for Alabama? Maybe he does. Pierce Spurlin, guy I just got done texting. He's a great basketball player. He's an even better football player. And that's these guys' approach. If you're just going to be a member of the team, then you ain't going to be no other member of the team. Now, if you're a contributor, an all-SEC caliber hooper, or an all-SEC caliber baseball player or whatever, yeah, maybe they allow you to go do those things. Or maybe you're a nationally known name like Jameis Winston. Yeah, of course, Florida State is going to allow you to go play baseball in the spring and allow you to play right field and pitch, even though you hit, a $180 or 225, whatever dog water stat line he put together. So I think it's funny that they say it in high school. Hey, we want you to play multiple sports. I think that's two-pronged approach. One, it keeps you busy, if you will. It keeps you busy as a recruit. And two, it keeps you from burning out on the sport that they're going to burn the hell out of you when you get there. We got another super chatter. What brand do you think is the best pairing with JT Daniels? Confused in terms of brand. I guess, you're talking about NIL, name, image, and likeness. I mean, it's gotta be 2K, right? I mean, who makes 2K nowadays? I can't even remember. I haven't played in forever, but maybe EA Sports gets in here and grabs a sponsorship with JT Daniels. Honestly, maybe it's some type of Wi-Fi company, some type of gaming company. If you have JT Daniels on alerts on Twitter, like I do, and about 75 other people, I don't even check my Twitter timeline, to be honest with you. It's just my alerts and my notifications. So sorry. If you got fired tweets on the timeline, your boy probably ain't getting them. But anyways, if you follow JT Daniels, that joker tweets about one thing and one thing only, and that's gaming. That's it. Gaming and when he's watching USC football games. That's it. That's all he cares about in life, which I'm cool with. I'm absolutely cool with. So if there was a brand that JT Daniels wants, this is funny right here. We'll get to it. It's got to be some type of gaming company, just so long as it ain't Georgia Power. That's funny if, again, you follow JT Daniels on Twitter. My man's having problems with power outages. So if anybody, well, actually, don't do it yet. When NIL comes around, if anybody wants to slide through Athens, maybe throw a generator out on the front doorsteps of JT Daniels. I ain't hating on you. And it actually will give us better and more enjoyable content because I can see him tweet about how trash FIFA's gameplay is, because that's the stuff I'm here for. Somebody get QB1 some solid Wi-Fi, please, for the love of God. Let's get that man back on the gaming systems that he seems to love so much. All right, so our last topic of the night before we get into Q&A, it's one that I've kind of been mulling over since probably a month and a half ago when all this information started leaking out about Georgia scheduling a bunch of official visits. Look, here's how you know that the schools knew. They've been known that June 1st was going to be the date. I was seeing USC was the first school I saw do it, but USC was out here promoting official visit edits before the NCAA even officially signed the dead period to be released. So do you think they had the drop, or did you think they had the drop? They knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. So these programs have had a long time to decide what they were going to do when June 1st rolls around. And I've said it over and over again, and I don't mean to over exaggerate what it is, because it's honestly, what I'm about to say is 100% true. This is the most vital and most compelling and most rare recruiting time that we're about to enter in less than a month than you've ever seen in your life before in college football. It's 100% true, 100% facts. College kids, college prospects haven't been on campus in 18 months. College coaches haven't been face-to-face with prospects, or at least they hadn't supposed to have been. I've seen a couple out, but, there's some, tweaks in the NCAA rules that you can get by. I'm looking at you, SEC coaches with sons, okay? I'm looking at y'all that take your kids out to camps, and only one of you sits in the stands. The rest of you, y'all don't sit in the stands. Y'all know who you are. But Georgia has decided that come June 1st, they getting the shots up, man. They are shooting their shot when it comes to June. And here's what I'm talking about. We already talked about it. The floodgates are going to be open. I'm ahead of my own notes, so that takes me a little while. I've got sources that have indicated, and we've told the people on Patreon, that Georgia's expecting north of 200 kids in 2022 and 2023 on campus the first weekend of June. And almost all of them are going to work out. And a lot of those kids are on official visits. Okay, not a ton, but some of the top targets. I'm talking about Addison Nichols. I'm talking about Kojo Antwi. I'm talking about Tyler Booker. I'm talking about Oscar Delp. All of them. All of the big shot targets, the big fish that Georgia's going after, almost all of them are taking their official visits in June, which is why, that's kind of important. Okay. And honestly, when I first thought about this, I was thinking, hey, man, that's a little premature, right? I mean, what's going to happen if there is a battle for Kojo Antwi? What's going to happen if there is a battle for Addison Nichols that lasts into, early National Signing Day? Okay, if he's got Tyler Booker is a last-minute decider. Okay, well, Tyler Booker burned up his official visit June 18th. So when, Georgia plays Kentucky at home, there are no official visits left for the big dudes. And here's what I got to think about. Shout out Jamie Goodman. I know you don't listen to the show, but Jamie, friend of the show, doesn't watch, friend of the Discord, friend of the Patreon, and most of you probably know him as one half of the voice of the Dogcast. Jamie and I talk every single morning. It's weird. I get it. We talk all the time, and we got to talking about this morning. He brought up a great point. Maybe that's why Georgia is loading up on these summer visits, because there is no Notre Dame at home in 2021 schedule. If you haven't looked at Georgia's 2021 schedule, man, it is far, far from impressive. I mean, far from impressive. Okay, there is not. I mean, Kentucky at home is the biggest home game. That's it. Clemson's a neutral site game, obviously. Florida's a neutral site game, obviously. So you ain't gonna get visits on those. You're not. And it's great to watch Georgia thump Kentucky 24-6 and just absolutely manhandle them all game. But is that really the environment that you want to burn up all your official visits on? Or do you want a controlled environment that you've prepared for all summer that's going to have every single top target that you want in a building together, in a facility together, meshing and bonding? That sounds like a pretty good plan. And it's one that they've put together for a long time. It is absolutely 1,000% a home run hack from Kirby. He is pointing and he's saying, I'm going to hit it to the moon. Right here, June 1st through June 30th, I'm going to hit an absolute dinger. An absolute dinger this summer. And guess what? If the commits don't roll in immediately, that's fine. That's 100% fine, because there's this green light, yellow light, red light type stuff when it comes to recruiting. Okay, if you followed Kirby long enough, if you followed him closely, not just listened to him, but watched his actions, he's a momentum recruiter. So what does that mean? What is a momentum recruiter? Well, it means what he did, back in May or March, early March, when it was commit after commit after commit. Jalen Walker, Jordan James, okay, commit after commit after commit. It's like he threw a daggone punter from Australia in there just for the hell of it. Okay, so he is a momentum recruiter. and maybe he stores them up all from the middle of the summer, or and tells them green light now, commit or don't commit. Maybe he does that, or maybe he sprinkles them out across the recruiting scene. All right, we got a super chatter here from Robert. Most important official this summer. Ooh, I think it honestly has to be one of those offensive linemen, right? Addison Nichols or Tyler Booker. I was talking to Quayshawn Sapp today, who I believe those three guys are their top targets in terms of offensive linemen in the 2022 class. By the way, a historically thin class. I mean, bad. A really, really bad offensive line class. And we'll get to that here in a second as to why I think that is. But the most important official is one of those three guys. Quayshawn Sapp's not going to take his until the fall. He's strategically chosen that, even though he's committing July 3rd. So I don't know the theory behind that. I don't know why he's doing that. He did tell me that he felt that he was comfortable with what's going on at Georgia. He's been up there 100 times at this point in his recruitment because he's a Lee County boy, and them boys go on visits. That's what they do. They lift weights, they eat steaks, and they take trips to visits. That's what they do. So one of those two guys, Addison Nichols or Tyler Booker. I think Georgia obviously would be extremely happy if they signed all three. I don't know if that's going to happen, especially when it comes to Booker and even Addison Nichols. I mean, that's an interesting cat in Nichols. Extremely smart. One of my favorite interviews I've ever had. But in terms of my theory on these offensive linemen, why it's so bad. And I was talking to an SEC recruiting coordinator the other day, and we were talking about this. I said, man, is it as thin to you in 2022 up front on the offensive line class as it is to me? Because I've never seen it this bad, ever. And he goes, no, you're 100% right. It is probably the worst class I've covered in 10 years, or I've recruited in 10 years. And I got to thinking as to why. And here's my theory. And this comes from the fat boy in me at heart, okay? Kid's been sitting around for 18 months. I mean, there was a period of there from March of 2020 to August of 2020, where everyone was locked up in their house, essentially. Okay, everyone was just trying to work out from home. Hell, Scott Cochran was doing his thing on Twitter where he was doing curls with laundry detergent. Okay, so everybody was at home. And, a lot of these kids now, not just nowadays, but I mean, hell, 10 years ago, when I was 16 years old, if you told me, yeah, you're locked in your house, whatever you've got in there, stay in shape, and you got to do it for 3 or 4 months, are you kidding me? I'd have came back looking even more like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Oh, you see what I'm saying? Like, it would be bad. And that's why I think this class is that bad. When I go to these camps, up front, that is, when I go to these camps, I see kids that look like they've been sitting on their couch eating potato chips for 6 months. Because the reality is that's what they were probably doing, because they weren't able to get to, Georgia's facility and lift weights, or their high school facility, let alone a major facility or a training facility. They weren't even allowed in their own building for a long period of time. So they sat stagnant. And if there's one position group that's going to get progressively worse, almost historically worse, during a time like that, it's the biggins. It's the big boys. Okay, when they're stagnant, they get chubby, and they get bigger, and they get bigger, and they get bigger. Georgia had one offensive line recruit that came in massive, okay, far overweight, probably 20 pounds over playing weight, and not the good way. So it happens. It's going to happen, especially when something unprecedented happens like a pandemic like that. So that's my theory on these offensive linemen. All right, let's get into these Q&As. We're under 40 minutes, so we got plenty of time for Q&A here. Let's start rattling them off. We will start with Alexander right here. Let me pull my StreamYard over my show notes so I can look right at you. All right, here we go. Have we been this deep without at least a couple of O-line commits since Kirby's arrival? No. I think this is by far, in terms of offensive line depth, this is as deep as Georgia has gotten. Okay, you got guys like Chad Lindbergh right now. Chad Lindbergh was, I think, the 24/7 composite. Y'all can check me on this. I think he was the number 13 overall tackle in the country coming out in 2019 or 2020. He's like third on the depth chart right now at guard. So, no, it hasn't been this deep in a long time. And that's what happens, okay? You're going to start seeing them, I think, at least in this class. I think you're only going to see them take maybe 3, maybe 4 offensive linemen. Because, honestly, it's a position that they don't really need right now if you're really looking at it. Warren Erickson could and probably will be back. Yeah, you lose Justin Schaefer. You lose Jamari Sawyer next year. Warren McClendon going to be back. Xavier Truss has an opportunity to be back. You're plenty deep. And again, that whole 2020 recruiting class hadn't even got on the field. Broderick Jones hadn't got on the field. Cedric Van Pran hasn't gotten on the field. Chad Lindbergh hadn't gotten on the field. Tate Ratledge hasn't gotten onto the field. So you've got a backlog right now of extremely talented football players that will be making their way into that starting lineup very soon. I don't see the necessary need right now to go out and absolutely fill it up in terms of recruitment. I heard a rumor that Georgia's about to flip some recruits. Do you believe in that? Yeah, I do. I don't know who it's going to be, so don't try to ask me. They don't give out that kind of information. They like to protect the kid in that sense. But no, they're going to be somebody. Okay, Kirby is notorious for flips. He's king flip, honestly. Every single year he has somebody. Last year it was Brock Vandagriff. Flipped him right from Oklahoma. Y'all probably don't remember that one. That was very, very early in the cycle, in that 2021 cycle. So, yeah, there's going to be somebody, okay, and he's going to get somebody. So he will flip. That's what he does, especially when visits come back. When visits come back, it's going to be left and right. So I was actually talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, so-and-so's committed here, so-and-so's committed here. What do you think about such and such? And the only response I got was nothing matters until visits. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Who's committed to our class? Doesn't matter. Who our targets are? Don't matter. Who's committed elsewhere? Doesn't matter. It does not matter. The recruiting cycle for a program like Georgia begins June 1st, and it will end December, whatever an early national signing day is, which is probably like December 15th, something like that. So there is like I told you, there is a 6-month period that's going to blow your ever-loving mind. It's going to be nuts. So buckle up and enjoy. And if you're on patreon.com/Brooks Austin, you will probably know a large portion of what's going on. What young lineman has a chance to make a big impact? I'll be honest, I don't really see, and I hope whether or not they're losing, I don't really care. I don't see a 2022 lineman like walking in like, oh, yep, that's the guy. Last year, I thought there were 3 or 4 of them. In terms of, yeah, he can walk in right now and play in the SEC if he had to, if he has to. Amarius Mims, prime example of it. That guy could play right now for Georgia if they were absolutely having to. He'd have his growing pains, but it'd be okay. It would be okay. This year, I don't see any of those guys. Maybe Tyler Booker kicking into guard and playing early. Maybe that's a possibility, but he's not ready to play SEC tackle. I don't believe so. Hell, he's just now getting his feet wet at left tackle because he was playing behind J.C. Latham, which was one of those guys last year. J.C. Latham, Tommy Brockemeyer, Amarius Mims, day one starters in the SEC if they needed to be. 2 of them just so happen to go to Alabama. So there you go. Biggest DB target right now. I would say Kamari Wilson, just because of needs on the roster, right? I know you're going to say corner, but they got young corners, okay? And they're going to get some more young corners in this NFL draft. In this signing class, they're going to sign, I would say, 5 or 6 defensive backs in this class, maybe even 6 or 7. Okay, they're going to load up at DB. As far as who's the top target, I would go Kamari Wilson. And then the rest of it is my interpretation. Okay, I love Marcus Allen from Walton. I don't know how bullish Georgia is on him. I know they're in on him, but is he the number 1 corner on their board? I don't know. There's a lot of guys in this class that I like a lot, Marcus being one of those. That 2023 class, though, wait until y'all see this 2023 class of cornerbacks. Okay, and a lot of it is a testament to guys like Justin Miller and Oliver Davis. Okay, the trainers here in Atlanta that train that corner position, Glenn Ford as well. Okay, there are a bunch of guys in that 2023 class that will blow your ever-loving mind. Okay, and they're going to be here really, really quick. Thoughts on De'Aaron Kendrick as a player? You don't need my thoughts. That dude was an all-SEC and borderline All-American player, okay, on the field. Everything else is very, very questionable, okay, in terms of, you get it. I mean, Google the kid's name. I'm not going to sit here and trash him. There's obvious what's going on there. As a player, really, really good football player. Would impact every single roster in the country. Every single roster. Don't care. Every single roster, De'Aaron Kendrick would walk in and impact that roster in terms of their starting lineup. There's no questions about the player, okay? All the questions about that young man revolve off the field, okay, and in the locker room and everywhere else, okay? So if that's what's going to happen, if that's what we're talking about just in terms of players and all ACC, all SEC caliber of corner, that's what he is. That's what he's always been. He's an incredible, incredible athlete. Kid was a high school wide receiver. Okay, played a little bit of DB, listed as one of these athletes, right? But if you're a recruiting analyst, in my opinion, I hate writing down ATH. Make a stance. Which one do you think the kid's going to play in college? Malachi Starks, prime example. That dude's a safety. He's going to be a safety. Okay. You can sell him on playing wide receiver or catching the ball or running the ball, whatever. That's fine. Dude's a safety. Okay. That's my I feel like that's my job as a recruiting coordinator, a recruiting analyst, to be honest with you and tell you what you're going to play. So De'Aaron Kendrick out of high school, listed as one of these athletes. Everyone knew he's probably going to play corner in college, and he started basically as a freshman at Clemson. So despite all of the stuff that was hampering and giving old Dabo a headache. So here we go. Does Quay Walker have potential to be a high draft pick? Quay's a very interesting study. If you followed any of our stuff, we've got plenty of Quay Walker film breakdowns. Probably a couple that are public. At least the first 15, 20 minutes of Quay are public. Quay Walker is the best overall athlete, like all around height, weight, speed athlete that I wouldn't say on the roster, but definitely in that linebacking core at Georgia. 6'4", 240 pounds, can run like a deer. I mean, absolutely run like a deer. The problem I find for Quay every once in a while on tape is he overruns a lot of stuff. Okay, if you watch Nakobe will work what I call inside out. Okay, he will very rarely overrun a ball carrier and get cut back on. Okay, he is always tracking the near hip at all times, working in to out. Whereas Quay, because he's so much faster and gets to areas, not so much faster, but because he's an extremely quick athlete and a really good athlete, perhaps he overruns plays every once in a while. Also, kind of gets bad with his eyes every once in a while on tape. So for those reasons, right now, it's really, really hard for me to sit here and say, oh, yeah, Quay Walker, second-round pick, because he's 6'4", 240. That's fine. Okay, it's fine. It's great. It's going to make him draftable. How high up on that draft board? That's the question. There are freak athletes all over the NFL, guys. They're all over the NFL. It's the same debate I have with people about Adam Anderson. Yes, Adam Anderson is going to do freakish things at the NFL Combine. He's going to do freakish things at his Georgia Pro Day, and he's probably going to have maybe 10 sacks this year. But, and here's the but, he's 6'5", 230 pounds. Edge rushers don't look like that in the NFL. They don't. Look at the list of guys that went in the first round of the NFL draft this year. And I'll tell them to you right now because I wrote an article about it with Aziz. Why did he fall out of the first round? You ready for this? Here are the list of edge rushers, heights and weights that went ahead of Aziz Ojulari. And tell me if Adam Anderson fits any of these descriptions. Jalen Phillips, 6'5", 266. Kwity Paye, 6'4", 271. 271. Peyton Turner, 6'6", 270. Gregory Rousseau, 6'7", 265. Jason Owe, which is the comp I get all the time. Oh, well, Owe had 0 sacks at Penn State. He had a great pro day, first-round pick. That's fine. Jason Owe, 6'5", 257. 257. He's got a whole almost 30 pounds on what I think is Adam Anderson's playing weight. Okay, Joe Tyrone, the kid out of Washington, 6'5", 262. So here's the deal. If Adam Anderson and Quay Walker, I know this started with Quay, but to carry it on to Adam, if Adam shows up at his pro day and he's 245 and he runs 4.38, first round pick, all good. Okay. But if he shows up at 232 and runs a 4.38, okay, he's good athlete. Never played on first down in college. There's my scouting report, coach. And it'll be, we can't take a first round pick on him. Same thing with Quay. Great athlete, got to match it on tape. Has to match it on tape this year. Maybe he does. Okay, here we go. Who is the past NFL draft from UGA do you expect to have the best rookie season? I think Aziz is going to get a lot of opportunity, right? I don't know if Eric Stokes, I don't know if he cracks the starting lineup at a traditional corner at Green Bay. That was a future pick. It's why the Packer fans got such an uproar about them, quote unquote, reaching for Stokes. They've got 2 corners right now. One of them's in his contract year, so they assume he's going to be gone, which, exemplifies the pick of Stokes. So I don't think it's going to be Stokes. Campbell's going to play a lot in that Jacksonville back end, but I think Campbell's still going to get picked on. He's got some things to learn. He got picked on in college this year. So if I had to take a guess, I would go with a guy like Aziz or somebody who we never talk about because we don't talk about offensive linemen. I do. Y'all don't care. My numbers say you don't. You care about quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. That's it. You really don't even care about defensive players, honestly. I mean, you do, but you don't. Okay. My analytics, again, my numbers back that up. You care about quarterbacks. Okay. There is one prominent outlet in our market that writes a JT Daniels story every single day. And guess what? Kudos to him. Kudos to him. It's a great business model. Sell quarterbacks. That's what they do. They sell quarterbacks. Great business model. Extremely successful. I can't do it. All right, here we go. As a season ticket holder, the schedule is depressing. What is the general consensus your followers on Georgia, Florida? I hate Jax. How much is it hurting us in recruiting? I'll tell you right now, Kirby hates Jacksonville. I shouldn't say he hates it, but he don't like it. Somebody that loves recruiting that much does not like Jacksonville. He hates the idea of a neutral site game year in and year out. And the only way, I mean, the NCAA could do better in terms of allowing it to happen, but it makes a lot of money for the University of Georgia in that Jacksonville area. But I think the city of Jacksonville signed some insane contract to keep it there for an extended period of time. So it makes the program money, which most programs are not going to be walking away from money, especially when, you hear the ticket sales at Georgia, but that upkeep for that stadium week in and week out, it's a lot of money to put the lights in it and run the lights and run the, stadium lights and do the music and pay the on-site personnel and bring in concession food and do all that, higher security, all that stuff, all the overhead costs, they cut into profits. Jacksonville is a straight cash cow for the University of Georgia. That is, here, look, $2.5 million right in the pocket. It's good for the program's finances. It's not great for the program's, overall recruiting. But, the catch-22, would it be great to every other year host targets on campus for Florida games? Absolutely. It absolutely would. But, Georgia has a very historic fan base in terms of they're very nostalgic. From what I've understood in the 2+ years in change that I've been in this market, very nostalgic. So you'll have the younger fan bases saying, "Oh, well, I don't like it." And Lynn, I don't know how old you are. I'm not even going to ask, but from my personal experience, the younger audience is like, who gives a crap? I don't like Jacksonville anyways. I mean, it's great to tailgate, but I can tailgate in Athens. And if I want to, I'll drive to that, armpit of Gainesville, Florida. If I really wanted to, we'll tailgate down there and we'll raise hell and pillage the village. So the younger crowds like that. The older crowds like, don't you dare. So, Lindsey Scott, Lindsey Scott wouldn't be Lindsey Scott if that was in Gainesville. I beg to differ. It would feel pretty damn sweet, right? It would feel pretty damn sweet all these years later if Lindsey Scott's touchdown run would have been there in Gainesville. Yeah, appreciate you, Jay. Y'all like the video for us. That will boost our numbers, and we always appreciate you that. DAIJUIN, Dejan. Or excuse me, DAIJUN, Dejan. Do you think Dejan Edwards getting meaningful snaps this year? Meaningful is the word there, right? I mean, it's going to be barring some type of injury. No, I do not believe that he's going to take meaningful snaps. And if he is, he's taking them out of guys that I don't want him taking snaps from. If Dejan Edwards is in the first quarter taking snaps against Auburn or Kentucky, there's either been a slew load of injuries or something happened. I mean, something happened. No offense to Dejan. I think he's going to be a really, really great football player for Georgia. He is a really good football player for Georgia as of now. He has kind of overshot even my expectations of him entering college. And if you go back and watch my film breakdown of him coming out of high school, one of my very first ones I ever did, I was very bullish on him back then. Guy just understands how to take a -2 and turn it into a +7. It's invaluable at the running back position. I think Jordan James is very similar in that sense in this 2022 class. So, no, I think that if Dejan Edwards is getting meaningful snaps, something happened. Somebody got hurt. That's really it. Yeah, somebody got hurt. A lot of people got hurt. So no, I don't think we're going to see Dejan Edwards run out there for a second quarter carry on 2nd and 3. There's just too many mouths to feed that are above him in that depth chart, in my opinion. Again, if that happens, you're taking carries from Kendall Milton. And I ain't going to be the only one that ain't happy about that. Okay. There's going to be a whole bunch of people that ain't happy about that. So I'd rather not see it. We already got this one. I think Alexander right here is responding to Lynn. Appreciate the inner comments chatter between you guys. Everyone seems to be cordial tonight. Not a lot of film on Emory Jones. What's your take on him? I've actually seen Emory up close and personal. I've seen him throw it. Dude's got a rifle tattooed to his arm. I mean, a rifle. He can make any throw. Absolutely any throw. Off platform, on platform, deep ball, underneath route, timing routes, all of it. He can make every throw. Problem is no experience. No experience. And it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and do the thing, well, you can't read defense. I don't know if he can read defenses. I genuinely don't. Nobody does. If you're sitting here saying you do, you're out of your mind. We've seen him be a wildcat quarterback for 3 years. And I'll say this about Emory. What Emory did at Florida is uncommon. It's at this point, moving forward, it's going to be unprecedented. For him to sit there and wait his time and wait his time and wait his time, and for 3 years be trotted onto the field and told to run quarterback power 4 times a game and then maybe throw the ball down the field on a play action Tebow-esque type bullcrap, for him to stick that out, kudos to him. It tells me a lot about his mental makeup too, right? So as far as what I know on him and what my take is on him, immensely talented, both physically and with his arm. Okay, can make plays with his legs. We know that, but can really, really flick it. I mean, can absolutely throw the piss out the ball. So all the other stuff's completely unknown in terms of what he's going to respond, how he's going to respond, how well he processes, stuff like that, in-game decisions. But the good news, and none of you guys here are Florida fans, I don't believe, but the good news if you are a Florida fan, the bad news if you are a Georgia fan, say what you want about Dan Mullen, say what you want about his post-game press conferences, say what you want about the Darth Vader outfit, say what you want about him recruiting about as well as a Division III school in Opelika, okay? Say what you want about how well he does all those things. A dude can scheme up some offense, and he can scheme up some pretty easy offense. I mean, some really easy offense in terms of, like, we're half field reads. You're not working that hard. All you got to do is make sure nobody's standing right in front of him and when you throw the football. Okay, so he makes it really easy on his quarterbacks, but you can only make the game so easy at times. There's going to be times where, defenses confuse a young quarterback because though he's not young in age, he is very, very young in experience, which might as well be the same thing. Y'all got some inner chats going on right here. SSL, I know you're here. Make sure we don't miss anybody, please. My boy. Here we go. Who is to blame for UGA falling behind in facilities? All sports. The AD. Will UGA ever be the innovator that campus others try to keep up with? Football-wise, they're not behind. Football-wise, they're, soon to be ahead with that facility opening up, which is not a coincidence. That facility is going to be opened up probably about a week before all those recruits get there. So, no, there's no quinkadink here in the football. Now, my take on things in terms of the other sports, I think the Steg's got a good vibe to it. When I'm in there, the facility itself, it may be old, but the inside of it looks incredible. I think it's got really cool architectural features on the outside. Your problem with Georgia basketball is it's Georgia basketball at this point. And until fans – here's the discussion we got into the Discord the other day. Everybody was like, well, we don't care about baseball. We don't care about basketball. We don't care about football. And I basically said, because that's the only male sport right now that you are in consistent national title contention. Okay. If Georgia baseball wasn't, 8 games over 500, 3 games under 500 in the conference, okay, outside the top 25, threatening to not even make the SEC tournament. If that weren't the case, if Georgia baseball was perennially, in the top 10 or in the top 5 or, consistently contending for a national title, like LSU is, like Mississippi State is, like Ole Miss is, like Tennessee is now, like Florida is, like Vanderbilt, like the rest of the SEC. If Georgia baseball was like that, you guys would be all over it because you like winning. I told the Discord this the other day. If you build it, they will come. And in other words, if you build a successful perennial contender, don't bring me last year was their year because Emerson Hancock and Cole Wilcox were on the roster, both of which are big fans of the show. Appreciate you guys. because they weren't able to play because of COVID. Oh, we got robbed. No, you should be in perennial contention as a Georgia baseball fan. That should be, I think it should be your demands. Georgia high school baseball is insane. There will be 4 or 5 guys drafted every single year from the state of Georgia. Okay, and I understand you don't get the top talent into college because they get drafted in baseball, but you get the point. The point is, if you go to Mississippi State, if you go to Ole Miss, if you go to LSU, if you go to Vanderbilt, if you go to Florida, that baseball stadium is beautiful. I mean, beautiful at every single one of those parks. Mississippi State's park holds about 21,000 fans. I mean, dead serious. About 20. And they pack that sucker to the gills every single week. Ole Miss is a riot to go watch a baseball game at. So, yeah, if you want to talk about facilities, don't talk about the football team. Talk about what it looks like over there on the baseball field where they don't have outfield seatings. I think the stadium stops at like first and third base. It's inexcusable, in my opinion. Inexcusable. You got all that money. You got to spend it. So just, do something better. Do something better in terms of what's going on there. The rest of the stuff is up to par, more than up to par. Oh, Coach Zach Pine up in here. We're going to catch my guy, Casey Wiseman, on the Breaking the Huddle. Coach, I'm going to get it to you. Okay, I got about 6 of you that want to get in on this, but you're the only one up in the YouTube comments. So, seriously, Coach, hit me up on Twitter. I've been talking to Casey back and forth. Casey Wiseman, by the way, guys, South Paulding High School football, a name to know in 2023. I would venture to say come maybe even before June, but after June, he's going to get a Georgia offer. That dude's electric. Got one of the whippiest arms in that 2023 class. What do I mean by that? Just you get it. It's whippy. It gets in and out really quickly with a lot of juice. So, yeah, Coach, I'll take care of you. Seriously, hit me up on Twitter. We'll schedule a time. I'll come out there to South Paulding. Justin, if you're here, my boy, you see the comment. We got to get out there for real. That's one we got to go see, especially since we've been loading up on the 2023 class. He's one of my favorites in it. So, Coach, we will get to you, I promise. Here we go. Do you know why Gunner was downgraded to a 4-star? I think somebody else hit you in the comments with the rankings don't matter. Guys, Ja'Curry Brown went out in the 7-on-7 circuit, went to the Elite 11 and balled out. Okay, balled out. And all these gurus, all these recruiting analysts are like, ooh, he's 6'5". He can throw it really, really well. He's winning 7-on-7 tournaments. Yeah, and he gets bumped up. And as someone gets bumped up, somebody's going to get bumped down. Okay, I don't worry about as much as this stuff as you guys do. Y'all take pride in the fact that, you get perturbed when you see your guy get downgraded. You're like, oh, that Bama bias again. Well, I don't care. You shouldn't care. What you should care about is whether or not, not only do you think the guy's good, but whether or not your coaching staff thinks he's good. Call up Kirby Smart and see how he thinks. Get his opinion about Gunner Stockton being dropped from a 5-star to a 4-star. See how quickly he gives you a MF or I don't care in that one. So, it's not a big one to me. I got my answers as to why, and I've already laid them out in my film breakdown of them. Look, here's the deal about Gunner. Gunner can throw it 75 yards, but he's 6'1", maybe 6'1", 215 is a 4.75 runner. They ain't never been a 5-star in the history of 5-stars ever. Okay, so that's why they are a height, weight, speed, measurables organization. That's what they do. They are trying to project 4 years down the road, which is an impossible task. An impossible task. So when it comes to 5-stars, they're betting on height, weight, speed, measurables. None of which Gunner has. What he has is an FU attitude when he's playing football. He's got a howitzer for an arm, and he's got an extreme upper-level intellect, none of which gets graded. You ain't ever looked onto a 24/7 Rivals or even SI All-American breakdown and saw some nonsense about intangibles. You ain't going to see it. But that's what, to me, makes a great quarterback, the intangibles, what's going on up top. The kid's locked in up top, so I'm not really worried about it. All right, we'll take a couple more of these guys. Super chatters, if you want to get in now, let me know so we can go ahead and hit your question before I hit this end broadcast button here. Here's a question for your competitors. As much as I dislike Alabama as a program, how in the heck does someone make an early top 25 and not put them at number 1? Inexperience at quarterback. Oklahoma's the big, love child this offseason, which seems to happen every 5 years or so. That's what's going on there. And most of these guys that you see getting ranked higher in terms of, overall team rankings, preseason rankings, which don't mean a hill of beans. Shout out to the 2007 Georgia Bulldogs team. It don't mean a hill of beans. B, a lot of it's based off, quarterback, experience coming back. Even though DJ Ugalele is technically a redshirt freshman or whatever, hadn't played a lot, he still played. Guys have seen him. Ain't nobody seen Bryce Young yet. And you got that whole 10 guys left tackle left, starting quarterback left, 2 wide receivers left tackle left guard left, center left. You get me? Starting D tackle left, number 1 corner gone, but linebacker gone. Okay, so there's a lot of major, not only just major players, but major key position players. And everybody's going to say, well, it's Bama. They rebuild every year. Do they? Do they? Well, I mean, we'll find out. All right. SSL, make sure I don't miss anybody again. Oh, yeah, this one right here. This one's from Justin, who is the best videographer I've ever ran into. Just picked it up in terms of shooting football guys and shooting football content, and he is absolutely elite. Okay, go watch that Breaking the Huddle episode 3 with Justin Johnson out of Central Gwinnett. I promise you will not regret it. It is really, really great content. 11 minutes, just give it to me. You already gave me an hour and 6. Give me 11 minutes. Go watch that stuff because it is elite. I'm telling you right now, it's really, really great stuff, Justin. I appreciate you for that. And yeah, we will definitely get you out there to South Paulton to take a look at Case Wiseman. Rudy hitting us up with our last, comment here for tonight. If you like the show, 100% true. If you like the show, you will love Patreon. I promise you. We tell you this every single time. A lot of you guys have converted. You're getting there, but we don't have all of you yet. And that's the goal. And as that family grows bigger, this content will get better. I promise you. We will be able to do more stuff like Breaking the Huddle. We will be able to do more live streams like this. Okay. As that stuff grows, we grow. All right. So the content grows and the family grows, and it is a good family. I had a question in here earlier, and I meant to hit it about how do I get into the Discord? Y'all hear me talk about the Discord all the time. As of right now, I see 26 messages in the Discord just from today's live show. They're just talking to each other about what we're talking about here. Big family over there. How you get into it is to sign up for the Patreon account. We got one last question that I missed, apparently. Ask, how good of a year do you expect from JT Daniels, and do you think he regresses due to our defenses having tape on him? No. I've been on the record saying 4,000 yards is not only gonna happen, it better happen at this point. Okay, he averaged just over 300 yards a game last year. So 300 times 12 is 3,600, and he's going to play, 14 games, okay? SEC championship and a bowl game. So 4,000 yards is a minimum, in my opinion. And I think he's going to be around like 4,100, 4,200. If anything, Georgia's, maybe not necessarily questionable defense. They're going to have a good defense still, but their lack of the number 1 defense in the country, more like their number, I think they're going to be like 18 to 25 range this year on the defensive side of the football, but they're going to be in the top 5 in sacks and turnovers, I think. With the opportunistic style of play that they're going to play defensively, I think you're going to have to see them score a lot more points and a lot faster, okay? That's going to be the MO this year. We're trying to score in bunches, okay? That's the term you hear Kirby talking about. We want to score in bunches. We want to have explosives, okay? That's what he means we want to be able to score quickly. If we need 21 points in a quarter, it should be no problem. We should get that immediately. All right, let's get this last one. I'm sorry. I keep missing these guys. Question, does Kirby want to take a chance on his character-ish? Here's Georgia's theory on this, and we'll end on this. The question the viewer has is De'Aaron Kendrick worth, does he want to take a chance on the character issues or whatever there is? Here is Georgia's MO, in my opinion, based off what I've seen them do. If the talent outweighs the character, they will deal with the character. Okay, they will. If the talent outweighs the issue at hand or whatever it is, they will take it and they will be okay with it. Okay. I'm not going to give any examples of this, but there's a blatantly obvious example that is not going to be available at the beginning of the year this year. That guy was a well-known, I'm not going to say issue, but a well-known, like, hey, It's going to take some work when he gets to college. And it did take some work, and it has taken some work. And they're cool with it. They're fine because he's an immensely talented wide receiver. There you go. So that's example A of what's happening. And guess what? Kirby's done an exceptional job of handling number one from what I was told it was out of high school. An exceptional job of handling that young man. Some guys he won't. Okay, there was a wide receiver in that 2019 class that Georgia took George Pickens instead of getting the other one. And a lot of people said they missed on the other one. They didn't want the other one. They didn't. It was at that point, it was too much to deal with. The talent did not match the issue or the headache that was caused. So, and no, it wasn't Brenton Cox. That's 2018, by the way. Yeah, there was a top wide receiver in 2019 that Georgia took Pickens. The other one went elsewhere, and he's having a fairly good career elsewhere. But that wasn't Georgia missing on a guy. That was Georgia saying, we'll deal with the other headache, and we'll be okay here because we got really strong ibuprofen around here, and he's immensely talented, and we're cool with it. All right, here we go. Appreciate you guys. Somebody in the chat hit it, so yeah, it's there. Anyways, Brooks Austin, the film guy. We do this every Monday in terms of Zach Evans was 2020, so you see y'all out the bag. Anyways, we do this every Monday night in terms of NBR. Okay, our public shows. Starting July, I'm gonna roll out some more live shows. As the family grows, we grow. So July, I've got some big things coming. Some other things coming down the pipe, maybe in the near future. So we went an hour and 12 minutes tonight. It's much longer than I even thought we were going to. I appreciate you guys for being here for real. Hit that thumbs up before y'all leave. And if you like the vibes, if you like, most of these guys in the chat are all, Patreon guys, honestly, they're Discord. So if you enjoy the vibe around this product, you'll really like Discord. You'll really like our Patreon family, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. All right, I'm out of here. I just did snaps and finger guns, man. That was so weird. How about one of those? No, that feels weird too. I don't have a hat to tip. Deuces, man, that felt really weird too. Anyways, bye. We'll see y'all next